So, Phil Mowat, welcome to the Disenfranchised. How are you doing today?
Yeah, really good. Thanks. Thanks for inviting me on.
Hey, no problems. We obviously known each other from working together in the past, but how are things for you at the moment? How are the family doing?
Yeah, all good. Kids are back at school, which is a relief,
Yes,
and industry seems to be picking up, and everyone seems quite happy. So let's hope we don't go back into another lockdown.
it helps that the sun's shining today as we're recording as well.
Yeah,
I keep
beautiful
banging on
day.
about it, but I love the sunshine, especially this time of year. It's great. But anyway, you talked about the industry being good at the moment, so we'll dive into that in a little bit. But before we do, I just wanted to start like I do with everybody and find out what was your first job after education.
First job after education was finishing uni, and I was in the events industry. So I was working as a venue manager, basically selling venue space and then organising events from the venue perspective. So working with event management companies, putting on conferences, dinners, fashion shows, car launches. So big old spaces that were holding big corporate events.
Wow. Okay. So what was your role within that? Were you actually organising the events or promoting
Uh,
them?
so event sales manager was my official role, but it was a selling the space and then being the venue contact, not necessarily being the operational person on the day, but liaising with the event management company to ensure that they've got access and they've got the things that they need from the venue.
Cool. So is that something that saw you travelling around the UK or further afield?
No, because I worked at specific venues. So I worked at a venue called the Brewery, which is owned by Whitbread at the time in the city in London. And then I worked at the Royal Horticultural Halls, which is part of the Royal Horticultural Society. So I don't know if you remember there was a BBC ident with some women coming down from ribbons in a
Okay.
grand old building,
Oh
and
yeah, I
that
remember now. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so that was the Lawrence Hall at the Royal Horticultural Hall. So that's the sort of thing we did. We would get an inquiry from a TV company wanting to use the space, and then we would sell the space to them and then manage the event, and they would come in and do what they needed to do.
So that's quite an exciting first job then, really, isn't it? So how comes you're not doing that now? Where did your career go after that?
Well, I think, like I say in my bio, it's fun when you're 23, 24, 25 years old, but working 8 a.m. till 11 at night, quite a few days of the week. I think it's more of a young person's game. So uh, it was fun whilst it lasted, but probably not practical going on. And then obviously the opportunity to work with my sister came along, and that's how I got into the franchise industry.
Okay, so this work with your sister, it's with a company called Beautycool, right? So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Beautycool is a hair and makeup artist booking agency. So we have a network of hair and makeup artists across the country that we supply primarily for brides. So ladies getting married in Newcastle, she'll inquire with us on our website and we will match her up to our local hair and makeup artist in the area. Um, my sister was a makeup artist, so she started the business. She employed, or she had a few of her friends that were also makeup artists, and she was giving out work to them and thought, well, I'm giving work to them, I might as well take a commission from that. And thus the agency was born. Um, she went and had a little girl, and my dad got involved to help look after the business for a few months. And he suggested that she's got a great business in order to grow it, that she should look at the franchising model.
Okay.
So, phone call came into me. I was 28 years old, coming to the end of my love for events. And me and my dad hopped on the train to the NEC and to the franchise exhibition, and had a walk around and met lots of people and bought some books and gathered a lot of information up. Um, and luckily enough, my dad said, right, he'll put in a bit of investment just to see us through for the first few months. Um, and it felt like I was back at university with a real life project.
Wow.
Um, so I took advice on board and from my learnings from what I'd read, we basically started to put the business together as a franchise model.
Cool. So just going back to, you said you went to one of the franchise shows. How did you find it?
It was 12 years ago, Ed, so my memory's not that great, but it yeah, it was pretty bigger in those days than it is now, in all honesty. um and yeah, it was an eye opener in terms of maybe how many brands are out there that you don't know that are franchises. You weren't aware. We all know the big ones, but some of the smaller brands you would never have guessed that they were a franchise model. But we went along and we met um, lawyers and consultants, and that's the sort of information that we were after. But obviously, it hit the spot because we carried on with the process of doing what we wanted to do.
Yeah, sure. And I think that's interesting actually, because I don't think I realised that at these franchise exhibitions there would be consultants and lawyers and people to help you to understand the industry as you know as well. And I don't think that everybody knows that really, do they?
No, I think, and there were probably seminars of how to franchise your business or how to grow your business. So, whilst the visitor numbers for that are much lower than potential franchisees, that is part of the industry. So, those sort of people do attend.
Excellent. And I know it's 12 years ago, but were you ever looking online for advice, and where did you find it?
Um, can't remember, in all honesty. We must have been doing a little bit. I remember we bought a couple of books, or in fact we won a book. I think we attended a talk of a lawyer, and then he said, the first person to come to our stand gets my book. So I think I pegged it and got to the stand first, and got this free book, which I've still got today. Um, but I'm sure there would have been research done online, and we probably picked up a lot of prospectuses and a lot of information from other franchisors to see how they presented it, to see what they were saying in their literature, to give us an idea of how to model the business.
Cool. So it's quite a leap, really, then going from working within the events industry, managing events, to all of a sudden being a big part in a business that's looking to franchise. What challenges did you face?
Um, First of all, taking a paper-based dining room table business, in all honesty,
Yeah.
to an automated, systemized business that can be seen. So an important thing for franchisors is that they know what their franchisees are up to, whether that's how many bookings they've got or what revenue they're doing, and having that visibility. Um, so that was a challenge because my sister was a makeup artist, so her skills were being in a hair and makeup artist and not necessarily having had a full tech system developed. So that was the most important thing, to transfer it from that paper-based business into an online business. So we worked quite quickly with a developer that I knew in order to build that system. Once we had that system in place, then we knew, okay, well, we've got something that franchisees can use, and we can see what they're up to, and we have control. We mentioned it earlier in our pre-chat, but control in franchising is one of the most important things. So once we had that in place, we were in a position where we could bring on some pilot franchisees. And what we did is we went out to our current network of makeup artists and picked three different people in three different situations to test our processes and test our systems before we went and launched and started to sell actual franchises.
Cool. So you mentioned control there, and I guess for some potential franchisees that might sound like a scary big brother thing, right? But that's not the reason why that control should be there, is it?
No, I'd say for us, it was all about managing performance and helping to manage performance. So um, our website was the generator of inquiries. So any inquiry that came in, whether it's from social media or via the website or via a phone call or an exhibition, that would all feed into the inquiry form, which would lead into the booking system.
Okay.
From that, we can then tell, well, franchisee number one has had 30 inquiries this month, but only converted 10 of them, 30% conversion rate, 33% conversion rate. Whereas franchisee two has only had 5 inquiries, but converted all of them. Okay, so we know what we need to focus on. Franchisee needs to focus on conversion rate. Franchisee number two needs to focus on driving more inquiries in. So the whole time it's about helping the franchisees to improve their business and get more out of it.
Yeah, so that control piece then is more so that you can understand and provide that support in the right places. That's quite
Right.
interesting. It's something I hadn't really
Yeah.
thought about before.
Of course, we also are very interested in what their turnover is, because we took a percentage management service fee every month. So we needed to have clarity on what their figures were in order to charge the correct amount.
Yeah, but it's a win-win scenario, those managed service fees, right? That's if they're successful, you're successful. So that's what kind of drives that relationship.
Yeah.
Um, so beyond this, then you then started to work for other brands within the franchising space, and some big brands in there like Action Coach and Expense Reduction Analyst, which is obviously how we know each other. And I guess you saw and supported a lot of franchise partners during your time there, coaching them through building their own successful businesses. But I'm wondering, what was the main challenge that they typically faced as franchisees within any network, I guess?
I think the main challenge for me or the support team is probably the fact that you have franchisees who are a day in versus a franchisee that could be 15 years in. And you've got completely different set of skills and personalities and knowledge and experience. And if you're an employer and you wanted to put your employees on a training course, um, it's much more likely that they've maybe been as part of the team and they're together already. Whereas your messaging as a franchisor needs to be so different to a brand new franchisee to an experienced franchisee, and the support needs to be so different. So that was the challenge for the franchisor. I think challenges for franchisees, I think ultimately any business is about sales. At the end of the day, without sales, you don't have a business. So some franchisees would come in thinking, oh, I don't need to do any sales. I'm part of the brand now and it will all happen. But from my perspective, the last thing a business owner should give up is the sales. They should delegate out other bits, accounting, admin, maybe doing the actual jobs. But I think business equals sales. So franchisees, any potential franchisee, you've got to realize you're going to have to sell, and you're going to have to sell to make your business what you want it to be. And therefore, franchisees that are maybe not doing as well as other franchisees that are doing well, probably the difference is the sales. And for some people, they may just not be able to grasp it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So how does somebody then maybe prepare themselves for that? And that may be a very broad question, but it'd be interesting to see if you've got any thoughts around, how does a potential franchisee prepare themselves to be ready to be in that mindset where they're going to go out there and sell their business, whether it's a franchise or otherwise.
Well, I think lots of people have the mindset of, oh, I'm not a salesperson. No way, I don't do sales. I'm not cheesy. I'm not selling pens or photocopiers. Or no offense to those people, those salespeople, but every person is a salesperson. We're always selling ourselves. If it's a conversation with anybody, we are in a position where we are presenting ourselves. And at the end of the day, if you've got a service or a product that is beneficial to someone that buys it, you should look at it as though you are helping that person to buy rather than you are selling something and jamming it down their throats. So first of all, probably flip that mindset to go, I love what this business offers. I share the vision or the values and the mission statement of that business. I know I'm making a difference to the people that are buying off me, and I'm helping them to buy this product because the product or the service is, in my opinion, the product or the service that they should have. Um, Alternatively, go on some sales training. So Sandler franchise, they
Yeah.
do some amazing sales training. Or you can get it online on YouTube or Udemy, or just brush up on the basics and fundamentally be a nice person that people like, and sales will come your way, if as long as your service or your product is a good offering.
Yeah, I think having that belief in your service or your product is key, and then I think sales is maybe a term that, yeah, scares people, but actually what it is effectively communicating with another party to help them to understand why you can help them. That's ultimately it, isn't it? Put it in a nicer way, you're just talking through identifying their challenge and showing them the path forwards and how they can overcome that challenge. So yeah, having that mindset where, you know, sales is not all just selling pens and printing solutions, you know, and knocking on endless doors, although that you know, maybe is part of it, but there's another side to it as well that is less scary or less less of a bad thing, I guess.
Yeah, but I think there's a big thing in loving what you do, and in, yeah, just being a part of your industry. So it like makeup artists for weddings, you are making women look amazing on their biggest day, one of their biggest days of their life, and they'll cherish those moments of when they're looking back at their photos of how good they looked on the day. So you just got to go all in and be a part of the brand that you are part of.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I mean, I think of ERA, and actually what we do for businesses is allow them to grow, build new teams, develop a new product, whatever they want to do with their businesses, and that can have a real positive impact on local communities as well as with larger organisations as well. So again, if you believe in that, if you think that's a good thing to be doing, then you know that's it. It almost becomes easy to sell, right? When you believe in the product or service you're offering.
Yeah, well, it's a massive thing for the younger generation, isn't it? Purpose and what the values of a business are, and the interesting fact of millennials think they're in a job for a long time if they're there for 18 months. There's there's not the loyalty like our parents had of pensions and things like that, but they want to know what the company's about. They're making a difference and they're benefiting the world by doing what they're doing.
Yeah, maybe not all millennials. I think I'm just scraping as a millennial, and I've stayed with companies for 8 years, 6 years, you know, and 2.5 now. So it's, yeah,
The
it's not.
younger millennials.
Yeah, all right, yeah, I'll take that. I think everybody's different, right? Everyone's got an individual approach to things, but I agree with you on the values side of things. I just think it's just been labelled in different ways in different generations, you know. There we go. So in terms of the support then that franchisees get, obviously you've been providing that to obviously a high degree in some of the businesses that you've worked with. What support should somebody looking to get into franchising though expect? You know, and I highlight the word expect because I think sometimes there's maybe an expectation that it should all be done for them. But yeah, what sort of level do you think they should expect?
Well, it does depend on the business, and it does depend on what the management service fee is going to be. So someone charging 4% management service fee, what you're going to expect for 4% versus 25 or 30% management service fee, you'd expect everything on a plate. So yeah, it's a bit of a tough question to ask to answer specifically, but fundamentally, I think it's about the support and communication, that you are part of a network, that if things are going well, you're going to get supported. And if things are going not so well, you're going to get supported. And you will be offered every chance to help you get to where you want to get to. I think where there are issues between franchisors and franchisees, it could be potentially where the franchisee just expects the franchisor to do everything, and the franchisee sits back and goes, well, why isn't it happening? But part of the recruitment process, or the franchisee coming on board, should be that communication around what the obligations are on each side, and that's obviously covered in legal agreements and information packs. So everyone's very clear on what they need to do in order to make it happen. But it's hard work. You are you are running a business. So in my opinion, you do need to do the work in order to get the results. But I think a franchisor should be available to be spoken with, and to guide and to help.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? I guess that's what you're paying for, isn't it? Is that support and guidance? And I actually think that franchising or buying into a franchise brand is very similar to self-employment, right? It just is actually a way to shortcut some of those early parts of the process. So for you starting, ultimately a business from scratch, really, wasn't it? I mean, well, not completely from scratch, but from very early beginnings. So you've seen that side of it, and you've seen the side of it from a franchisee perspective. What do you think are the main differences beyond that support? But the main differences between self-employment and franchising is what I'm asking.
It's just all about the network, isn't it? So having a WhatsApp group of other of the network, and being able to go, hey, I've got a problem with, who can help? And then ping, 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 it comes straight back with the answers. Whereas self-employed, you'll be using resources that are out there on the internet, and maybe a mate that runs a business. So I think it's all about having people to talk to. So a good franchisor would have probably in-house coaches, or coaches that help franchisees. They'd probably have a mentor scheme to match you up with another franchisee. It's good to talk, isn't it? So I think with the old
Yeah.
expression, and obviously the huge mental health issues like that have come to the forefront in the last few years, everyone now understands about the need to talk to people. So
Yeah.
quite often when I'm coaching or consulting with a franchisor, it's more of a chat, because they can't talk to their partner about it, because the partner doesn't understand it, or it's just giving a bit of advice here and there, or okay, well, what are your options? You could go A, B, or C, and then we get to a decision that they want to go down route C, for example. So yeah, just communication is I think one of the most important things in being part of a network.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point you raise about the mental health side of things, because I think it's easy for people starting up their own business to not really have anyone to complain about, complain about stuff to, especially as you say, if you're talking to a partner or a friend who doesn't really understand the world that you're in, yeah, it can feel quite lonely. Whereas just having that ear of somebody who understands, who's maybe been through it before, can offer you guidance and advice around that challenge. And it may be something really simple, like you just had a bad day, you couldn't get hold of anybody, or something like this. That it's really useful to have those people there that have experienced it, whether that's a franchise consultant or somebody from within the network. I think it's really important.
Yeah.
So you mentioned there about business coach. So obviously this is something that you've done in your role, I guess, as franchise support manager, and I guess in your role today, really. So I think some of the biggest challenges people face is having that mindset from going from being an employed person into being, right, it's all on me now. And maybe I've got a goal, but how do I actually achieve that? That's quite a challenge. So in your experience, what's the best way to approach goals that somebody may have, and how to get there?
Accountability, I'd say, is the word. So
Okay.
I'll use an example. So I I'm training for the London Marathon. Was meant to happen last April, then this April, now next October. or this October. So my accountability on that, and my goal is to run so many kilometers every month. So my accountability is a sheet on the fridge where I mark up the runs that I do and I add up the totals. So my kids and my partner can see that I am doing it or I'm not doing it. And if they see that I haven't written up a run this week or written up the kilometers, they're on my back to say what's going on. So running the marathon is quite hard work, and you've got to put in the groundwork to make it happen. So if I didn't talk to them about that, or if I didn't have that sheet up, could quite easily let it slide and I'll pick it up next week or I'll do it next month. But such a simple thing about that visible, having someone to hold me to account in order to get to achieve what I need to do, that works for me. So business is the same. I think you don't want someone going, oh yeah, it'll be all right, just do it next week. It's no, you've told me that you want to do this by this date and you need to do all of these things. Why haven't you done it? And questioning why haven't you done it, and this is where coaching comes into play, of that whole accountability thing.
Yeah. So do you think the coaching side of things then, do you think that somebody can start a business or run a successful business without a coach, or do you think it's essential? Or, I'm curious to find out.
I think it would depend on the person. Like some people are so goal driven and they're so energetic and enthusiastic and they can crack on, but then again they might need someone to help them get organized and focus on the right things. But I think we can all do with some accountability, and that's why when we're in jobs we have bosses and the bosses have bosses, and it's the reason that maybe employed work works, because you've got that structure in place. So I think if you've come from maybe an employed role where you've been managed and you are suddenly working by yourself, then I would highly recommend that you have someone. Doesn't have to be a paid business coach. It could be your partner or your uncle or your oldest kid or whoever it's going to be, that's just going to go, right, have you been doing the things that you said you're going to be doing? So yeah, I think the answer would be you need someone, and that person needs to be the person that's going to be that person that just gives you that little kick in case you need it.
Yeah, and I think also you've got to flip the way you view yourself. You're not an employee anymore. You're the manager now of your business, or you're in charge. Yes, you still get some support, but actually it's on you now all of a sudden, isn't it? And yeah, I think people have got to be prepared for that change in its lifestyle, I guess, isn't it? Really, before they part with their money or do anything. So really interesting.
I think it's, and we've learned this over lockdown, working hours and working patterns, but it is easy to go, oh, I'll just knock off early today. And that's cool, as long as you've got a plan to go, well, by the end of this week, I wanted to achieve this, this, and this. And as long as by the end of the week you've achieved that, crack on, knock off early every single day if you want to. But as long as you know, I must get these things done. And if you haven't got them done, then it's your own fault and you need to find a time to get them done. So
I
you
guess it
can't
offers
just,
flexibility, right? It offers flexibility, but you've still got to put the work in somewhere. So
yeah.
What hours do you work generally?
I'm generally at my desk at 8:30 once the kids have gone off to school. Monday morning I was doing a 15k run at 11 a.m. But that's because I'd done a couple of hours work. It was a beautiful day. I hadn't run over the weekend and I thought I'll get out there. And that felt amazing because I'm like, cool, I'm doing a run when if I was in a job, I'd be having a cup of tea. So some nights I put on LinkedIn the other day, when do you find your flow? It was literally 1:30 in the morning and I was still at it and I was on top form. So I started work at 10 o'clock that night and worked through till 1:30 in the morning. Other times it might be, yeah, just do a standard 9 till 5 day. But with my work as a consultant, it is very much project led. So we know we've got deadlines and certain things to do by certain days or weeks. So we go, okay, well, we'll get the prospectus done by this day, and therefore I know I've got the bits of work to do in order to hit that target.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that your consulting business that you run now, and that's within the franchising space, obviously. Why stay in franchising? Why not look to provide a consulting service to any business out there?
Well, I hope I know the franchising industry quite well now, seeing as I've been in it since 2009 and been a franchisor, been in support roles, um, I was a business coach, action coach, so I was doing what franchisees were doing without being a franchisee. So hopefully I've seen a bit of everything. So I now work for Ashtons Consulting, which is one of the main consultancy firms in the UK. And I like franchising. I love franchising. I like helping smaller businesses develop into bigger businesses, just like we did with Beautycool. And it's exciting to see someone who has got a business that's working, that's been operating for a year, a couple of years, three, however long, as long as they've been working and it's been making them money and it can be replicated, then there's the chance that it could be franchised and it could grow into a bigger business.
Cool. So I guess that's quite exciting to see then that opportunity open up to other people, and it can allow them to have this flexible life or the lifestyle or the income or whatever it is that they want. So yeah, I was going to say, so are you still kind of excited by that prospect?
Yeah, I like being involved in the early stages because it's exciting for them. What at the same time, it's nerve-wracking for them because they're putting in a lot of. They've got a good business. They could just carry on with that business and do well, but they're taking the leap to expand and grow and effectively change, because a person running a plumbing business suddenly is not just being a plumber, they are running a franchise plumbing business. So it's something that we explain to clients early on, that actually you're going to have two different roles here, and are you still going to be operating your business, the first franchise, because you've got to understand that managing a network of franchisees is completely different to plumbing, for example. So yeah, I enjoy seeing that excitement, but that pressure in a way for them, and helping advise them on the best routes and the documents that they need in order to put themselves in the best possible position to start advertising and take on pilots and then take on franchisees, and helping them throughout. So helping them with training and coaching and an ongoing basis.
Cool. So in the franchising industry, then you're obviously quite passionate about it. What's been the most kind of inspirational thing that you've seen?
So the most inspirational thing I've probably seen is the BFA Awards a couple of years back. Can't remember the brand or the guy's name, but he won the Young Franchisee of the Year award. He had massive hair, and the the excitement and the delight on his face, but also on his team's faces, was just incredible. You saw how much passion he had for what they were doing, and they were just hashtag loving life sort of thing. It was
Fantastic.
like they were all in on what they do, and they were so happy and excited to have won that award, that it was probably life changing for them, because it's something they've worked towards and then been recognised for.
That's great.
So yeah, apologies, I can't remember the name, but it was that moment. It was inspirational.
So how old was he roughly?
Probably 23, 24, I'd say.
Wow, and he's already winning awards within the
Yeah,
franchising industry.
yeah,
That means he's built up something, which would have been a couple of years. So he'd have been young when starting up his franchise, and I think there's this kind of misconception sometimes that franchising is for people in their 40s and 50s and upwards, right? But I guess seeing someone like that have such a big impact at such a young age, it would be pretty inspiring. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Well, I'm not anti, but I'm much more the route of go out and learn something and then start a business rather than going to university. I went to university myself, but I think the 9 grand a year fees, yes, it gives you some great life experiences, but for me and my kids, I'll be highly encouraging them to find a passion, go out there, get trained up in it, learn it, become the expert in it, and then build a business around it. So for kids thinking about university versus working versus running a business, yeah, you need some like I was going to say balls, but I can't say balls.
Okay.
Um,
Life
you,
lessons.
you need some oomph inside you to really go and push on with running a business from such an early age. But people do it, and why not crack on and do it?
Yeah, sure. I think this then brings up another idea that's going around the franchising world at the moment, and that is the possibility of buying a franchise for your child. So people can actually, rather than investing in a university, take that, what is it, 9,000 a year, so 18, 27 grand, whatever it may be,
Mm.
and investing that into a franchise for their child and supporting them through building out their own business, which is probably not in all cases, but could be a good investment for life. And I found that really an interesting concept.
As long as the interest comes from the child and not from the parent of happy Christmas, here's a franchise. Like my dad worked the canned food trade, and he asked me when I was leaving school if I wanted to get involved in tin tomatoes and olive oil, and at that stage I was like, no, no way, sorry.
Uh,
But you need to follow your passion, don't you? So,
yeah,
but yeah, yeah, it sounds like a great idea to put that investment into a business rather than into university. So
yeah. It's an idea and it's a thought, isn't it? That I think not enough people perhaps consider. So other things I've heard recently is maybe there's opportunity for apprenticeships where you go and work for the brand first and then become a franchisee off the back of it. Paying off the fee as you go along, which I thought
yeah.
was quite interesting because there are a lot of young people out there that have got the drive and the ability to be able to build a business. They just perhaps haven't been educated or don't know how to.
We did that actually with one of our franchisees at Beautycool. So she was working, she left her job. We trained her up as a makeup artist, so she wasn't a makeup artist already, and she worked for us. So uh, we gave her a free training course in return for doing some work for us. She got to know the brand and the business, and she's still a franchisee today. So, and probably one of our best franchisees. So,
Awesome.
it's yeah, getting involved in a business and learning it, and then moving up the ranks is definitely a way forward.
Cool. That sounds really good. So I'm going to move on to just a couple more questions before we wrap this up. So the first one, I like to find if there's any strange or weird or funny stories within people's careers because sometimes they're the best stories. So have you got any you can share with us?
Um, it's not necessarily a weird or a strange, funny story, but um, 2009 NEC exhibition met Nick Williams. So Nick Williams is the managing consultant at Ashtons. So got on the train, got into franchising, met a guy, got some advice off him. 12 years later, I'm now working with him. So what you've got to keep your contacts close, and things will happen over time. So it's franchising industry is like any industry. Everyone knows everyone at the end of the day, and behave, be nice to people, and things will happen for you.
It's funny. Everyone says it, don't they? It's a small world, but yeah, be a good human being is, I guess, what you're saying there, which I
Yeah,
like. I like that.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, one final question then. So, what practical advice would you give to anybody who's thinking about getting into franchising?
I think I've mentioned it already. Just make sure that you love what you're going to be doing. If you don't love it, choose something else. Find that thing that you want to do, and just go for it if it feels right, and if you've got the support of family and friends, just go for it.
Awesome. Phil, thank you so much for your time today and for your
Thanks,
advice
Ed.
and for sharing your insights. It's been really interesting to hear all of that. So if anybody wants to reach out to you at any point, where's the best place for them to find you?
LinkedIn, so Phil Mowat, PHILMOWAT, or via Ashtons Franchise Consulting. Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Thanks so much for your time, Phil. Take care.
Cheers, Ed.
Cheers.